button. So who's a Blazor developer? What's a Blazor? What the? All right. Blazor is literally C# in the browser, right? So there's a variety of flavors for Blazor. So Blazor WebAssembly, Blazor Server, and now WebAssembly's client side are purely in the browser, whereas server-side rendering is Blazor Server. And then they have got the auto mode as well, which lets Blazor choose which side to render your component on. So sometimes it'll do a server-side render first for like a quick preload, and then the remaining of the renders will happen on the client side once all the .NET assemblies and things have loaded. So there's quite a long intro, and actually I think Lachlan's got a great video from a few months ago where it actually explains all the differences for the different render modes. What I'll cap off there is that Blazor Server, for instance, interacts with the client. All your user interactions are via Signal R, and they're called circuits, which actually I'm going to talk about in here as well. My favorite has always been Blazor WebAssembly. But with .NET, that's changing. I'll show you why. I forgot I added that animation. This is me, William Liebenberg. I'm one of the Azure and .NET innovation consultants here at Arinco. I'm a .NET MVP, and you can find me on Twitter or X. I've got a very out-of-date, soon-to-be updated blog site. And if you'd like to have a chat, just find me on LinkedIn. Yeah, definitely, always up for a friendly chat. I started coding a long, long time ago. I don't even remember what year that was, but it's when computers and everything were just beige and ran off tapes. No shiny CDs or discs, not even the internet. Then in 1999, I started 3D game development, with 3D game development technology, but for a heavy industries computer-based learning company, so writing real-time rendering engines to run simulations for working safely in dangerous environments like mining sites and confined spaces and so forth. Then in 2006, when .NET 2 came around, I jumped on it straight away. When .NET 1 came out, where Nilesh was talking, where's Nilesh? When he was talking about .NET 1 and 1.1, I looked at it and go, what on earth? This is not going to last. So I started on .NET 2, and I've been on it every day since, basically. So very similar story with Azure as well. You could count the number of services very quickly in Azure back in 2014. You can't do that anymore because there's hundreds of them. And if you build anything now that uses everything of Azure, you'll have a Frankenstein application. These are just some of the things I use day to day, but yeah, that's an ever-growing list. So with Blazor, right? So now we're in like literally the 10th iteration of it. I think if you look at one of the .NET Conf videos in terms of pull requests or contributions in .NET 10 has been something like a fifth of all contributions over the lifetime of .NET. That does not include .NET Framework, it's just the normal open source .NET. And in this version for Blazor, they've worked on adding more security features. I'm going to show you how to do passwordless authentication right out of the box using passkeys without writing a single line of code. They've added more observability metrics for Blazor Server and Blazor WebAssembly specifically, and ways for you to surface that either through .NET Aspire or to actually get it straight out of the DevTools console in your browser. There's been a ton of performance improvements for Blazor 10 as well. A little bit hard to show that off right now. I don't have any benchmarks to run, but if you look at the .NET Conf videos, Daniel Roth shows up some of their internal benchmarks that they've run, and some improvements have been almost 10x the previous version as well. So they're doing really, really well. Then for sort of the developer delights, or whatever you want to call it, some of the really nice things, one of my favorite things they've added now, which is going to pretty much convert me to using Blazor Server over WebAssembly, is the state persistence. Hot reload has been made a whole lot better, a lot faster. Something we do rely on in our sort of internal dev loop. If you want to change some code on while the app is running, hot reload will update that for us in the background and show up in the browser. So if enhanced form validation, I don't have a demo for this one, but if you've used this before, validation, if you're using data attributes like required lengths or minimum lengths and so forth, that validation only happened at a top level class. So if you, for instance, had a person class with first name, last name, and had a couple of validations on there, but then an address class, and it had 5 other fields in there to validate as well, previously that wouldn't validate. Now it will actually cascade or traverse the whole object graph with all the attribute, all the data annotations underneath, and trigger those validations in the UI in editor form. So it's pretty neat, but I don't have a demo for that one. Something about the improved navigation and not found hand. Haven't tried that yet, so I don't know. Someone can try that. I don't usually use QuickGrid much. I usually use Blazor for most of my component library, but apparently they've made that and the JavaScript interrupt a whole lot easier, nicer, so you can actually call constructors and properties and things directly and set callbacks on your JavaScript code from Blazor. Even though the whole point of Blazor is to not use JavaScript, you can when you really, really have to. And then they've improved the automated browser testing where you can actually spin up a whole web application factory, use the web application factory to start the Kestrel server in your tests, and then use Playwright, for instance, to go and make sure your site is doing the right thing. Now I've got an example of that one. So overall, yeah, that is exactly what I just said. So I think I was supposed to delete this slide and just use this one. But anyways, then I'm going to just show you some of the new templates that come with Visual Studio or .NET, how passwordless authentication works, the persistent state, how you can control your connections or those circuits in your application based on its visibility. So if the app has gone to sleep or goes behind another tab or behind another window, you can actually turn off the connection there, save some resources, and resume it. Fingerprinting and compression, so this will be handy for when you're deploying your app and using a CDN, for instance. For a long time, they haven't had fingerprinting on there, so you'd have to manually purge your cache and do all sorts of annoying things to be able to get the latest version of your C# and your CSS and even JavaScript code to be loaded in the browser. And compression has significantly reduced the size of the runtime loaded into your browser. There's also a customizable Reconnect Modal window, which if you've used Blazor Server, you might have seen before, but if you haven't, I'll show you. And just listing a few other little neat features. So very ambitious, and I'll start the clock now. Sorry. Okay, so new Blazor templates. We've already seen this one before, but there's a whole lot of new AI type examples built on the Blazor as the front end, just like we've seen from Nilesh before. So if you .NET install Microsoft extensions AI templates, you'll get them into Visual Studio. There are also, so what you'll get there then is the AI chat web app. That's on Blazor. It's got full RAG implementation, a whole bunch of really cool examples. Stuff that would have taken weeks, I guess, if you have to do it from scratch and figure it all out. So now it's just like this beautiful out-of-the-box example. But I'm not going to talk about the AI stuff. I'm just saying that one template is already a game changer for you to get started. Now, the other templates, the standard web app application, as a web app templates, make sure you pick .NET 10. And if, unlike me, you didn't quite upgrade it the right way, choose Aspire 13. For some reason, my Insiders version didn't come with 13, even though it's the latest one. But sure, that's intended. But you can just upgrade the NuGet package and you get it. So passwordless authentication is supported right out of the box. They're phishing resistant, they're secure by design. You can choose the way that you want to authenticate, or your method. So you can use Windows Hello. I actually don't know what they call it on Mac, but use the Mac Authenticator, the Authenticator app on your phone, or a YubiKey, security key on your laptop. So let's see. And it requires you to be verified that you are who you are before you can actually store the passkey on any of those things. So let's have a look at some code here. So just open up the passkeys app, but I might show you how easy it is just to start from scratch. I'm going to create a whole new one. And so if we go here, create a new project, and I normally use dark mode, but a real developer, Whereas for demo purposes in a not a well-lit room, what kind of virtual machine is that? Running Parallels on Mac. So basically there's Mac, there's Windows with Visual Studio on a Mac, and it's beautiful. It just works. Okay, so create a brand new Blazor web app. Give it a name. 4 sounds good. .NET 10. I choose individual accounts for the authentication type. You can do all the other things if you want. Enlisting the Spire, why not? We're choosing server mode and go create. And what we'll see, which, spoiler, it's already in the background, it does create a whole lot of components and things for us already. It's just doing some Aspire things. Give it a second. And so there's a bunch of pages and some scaffolded authentication stuff. I'm just going to run straight away. I don't have my phone on me, but that's okay. There's another way to do this. So we're starting the Aspire app host, which is the thing that's going to orchestrate the startup of everything in our project, or sorry, in our solution. In this case, it is the Blazor app number 4. So I'm just going to hit the URL there. So nothing fancy just yet. Hello page, a counter page, does its thing. Zoom in a little bit. That's the wrong button. Standard weather example. But here's an auth required page. You need to be authenticated to access that page, but I am not. And I don't even have any users, so I'm going to go and create one here. We'll add a ring code. And my super secure password. I have to make sure I actually do it correctly. Cool. So just there's no email provider, just sort of fudge it a little bit. And so now I can go home and see all these things work. Auth required. Oh, okay. I'm not actually logged in yet, so I have to log in, right? So we'll add a ring code and then password. All right, now I'm authenticated, so I can go to this authenticated page and see what's supposed to be there. But if I then go to my profile page, you can go check all the other things, but you can now click on passkeys to add a new passkey. So in this case, I will use this Windows device, and it's going to ask me for a PIN. Okay, so I'm verifying who I am. I need to add it in 3 times, I don't know why. But it is 3 times. Boom. Great. So now I can add in my Windows passkey for Blazor. Alright. So there's my passkey saved. So if I now log out, instead of logging in with the username and password, I can click login with passkey. And now all I need to do is type in my PIN number and I'm in. And if I go to that, hey. There you go. So now go to the auth required page and we can see that same user has been authenticated. That easy, right? I'm not a security expert, but I like this. I don't really understand how it works under the hood, but the documentation is there, it's fresh, it's good for you to go and look at and go and just out of the box build a bit more secure apps with Blazor. Cool. Does it work on all major browsers? Who asked that question? Oh yeah. Does it work on all major browsers? As far as I know, yes. I did try it on Chrome, Edge, and Firefox. What's that?
The 3 fingers on the left.
Mate, if you look at my toolbar, there's no Safari here. Sorry, I don't know. I don't know.
Just one point also, as far as I'm aware, it's not just Blazor either. It's across, so if you're building ASP.NET with MVC as well, you'll get it as well.
Correct. It's not just Blazor, so it's based on the ASP.NET identity under the underlying auth framework. So yeah, Razor, Pages, MVC apps, whatever. The whole lot's there for you to use. So it's not just Blazor, but it's out of the box template. So you don't have to do any of that yourself because if you look at it, there's a whole lot of stuff. I don't want to write that. I can customize it, make it look better, but I don't want to write it from scratch. So, cool, I'm going to stop that. And then let's go back. What's next? So persistent state. So when Blazor server does a server-side render and sends it to the client straight away. If you use the auto modes and some of them, like, there's a bit of a flash sometimes where it's actually re-rendering your page after the initial render. And they've tried to sort of mitigate that a little bit, but it was still there. And the other downside is that it would actually, if you retrieve your weather report or your context list or whatever state for the pre-render on the server side, and then when it gets to the client side, it render again. It had to retrieve that state again. So you might hit your database or your API a second time. So now they've actually added something where we can persist that state that carries through from the pre-render to the next render as well. So it doesn't have to refetch that data. It's ready to go, and it's quite simple. Like and it works here with the circuit connection between Blazor server and the browser. So like I said earlier, all the interactions are via Signal R from Edge or Chrome, whatever, to the backend, or to the API, the UI backend. And so if your circuit got disconnected and reconnected, which we'll demo in a second, your state's lost. So when it reconnects, everything's gone. They fixed that, and it is like awesome. You'd have to, if you try to solve that yourself previously, you have to save and reload and rehydrate everything manually, and it's a massive process to remember where you were, the scroll positions, the whole lot. Absolute nightmare. So they have fixed that now, and it improves the whole scalability of your apps. So if you shut down or pause your circuits and let the browser sort of release on resources, so you're not hogging the resources the whole time, even though people are not looking at your app. When you come back to it and you can reopen or resume that circuit, that state is also rehydrated, and it's as if you never left, or it's how you left it in the past. So the magic that we require is just to add a persistent state attribute to a public property or an indexer. So I'll show you what that looks like if the Mac thing would go away. How did that happen? I don't want to see that. I want to be able to drag my... Windows just works, Visual Studio just works, but this is the Mac. Alright, so we can close that. Yeah, don't do that. Close that one. And then, come on. So here's some of those lags that Brian was mentioning for some reason. There we go. Now it seems like it's doing something. Alright, so I'm just going to run this app and show you the side effect of your circuits when they close and you lose your state, and then I'll show you how to fix that. Quite straightforward little fix. So again, this is opening up .NET Aspire, and I've got my app here. All right. Oh, hang on, that's the wrong zoom method. And so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to tear this off a little bit. So I'm going to add the windows like this. I'm going to keep Aspire there, and I'm going to go and show you something else. So if I look at metrics, just make this a little bit more spacious. So we can look at the active number of circuits for our Blazor app. So we can see we've got one window open, okay? And if we then go and duplicate this tab, put it here, so in a moment you'll see that we actually have two tabs, or two connections open, two circuits, okay? And then if we can go to our counter here, and I'll go to counter here, so click, 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 and click, 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 click. Oh, let's make them different, all right? Now if I go and open a new tab, we'll see in a second here, I'm moving very slowly, that we actually lost momentarily, but we did lose. Can I make this last 1 minute? There we go, that's quicker. We actually lost a circuit, all right? It's been disconnected. Same with this one. Why did add another tab? It actually turns off the app behind it. Trying to save that resource. Now if I go back to it, and I've just added a little bit of delay in here to show you that little modal that automatically shows to reconnect, but when it reconnected, my state is lost. Same with this one. Right? No, that should be almost instant on this local machine, but I added a bit of a fake delay. So my counts that I had previously are all gone. Very annoying. I mean, even imagine you're logged in, you tab away, you come back, you have to log back in again. That's many of the four-lettered acronyms, right? So we don't want to suffer with that sort of problem. So what they've done, and what we can do, is we go to our counter. I've already done it, so we just add this one flag, persist state, or persistent state. And it has to be a public getter or an indexer, so like this square brackets and so forth, so that it can access the get and restore the state. So that is all I've done, right? I'm still displaying the value, I'm still incrementing the value as is. I just added that one property, and so I'm going to run that again, and then show you how magically we just keep everything that we want to keep. So I'm just going to put that here, and I'll open up another one. Hang on. Duplicate that one. Drag down here. Okay, so let's go to the counter. Let's go to the counter here. We'll go to our metrics. Circuit active. And 1 minute. All right, so we're doing the same thing. You see we've got 2 active circuits, making a little bit of some state changes, but now we're browsing away and doing other things. Go make a coffee, and when we come back, it will resume. I think I put a 3-second delay, but there's my count that I had before. This one I think was 5 or thereabouts, 7. So cool, my state's back. So now I can keep going and where I was left it before. Yes.
So where is the state safe? Inside the front-end WebAssembly application or inside the server component?
So where is the state saved? Is it in the WebAssembly side or in the server side? This is a pure server-side application. So I actually don't know the real answer. It's a great question, but I'm sure it's in the docs and can figure out. But it is definitely a good question. We should know that. Sorry? Maybe they're all options. How about we talk about it over a beer after the session? But yeah, no, I don't actually know where it's saved because I saw it. I'm using it as, like I said, always use Blazor WebAssembly, where state management is quite different. This is making me feel like I want to go back to Blazor server and use that. The pre-rendering and all that. There's some of the response times and SOE, SEO is just far better for public apps versus WebAssembly that they don't get indexed very well. So in terms of other cool things with Blazor, apart from persisting the state, these metrics, which I already showed you a little bit, but there's some specific ones for Blazor server. So you can actually see the duration and counts for how long they've been open for and closed for, as well as there are some other ones. I think there's one. Can show you how many times you've navigated around the application, but there's one I'm missing. Component life cycles. Those are new, but now where's the other one? I think it's supposed to show you the number of paths and things that you've gone through. I don't know if something's missing now because it was there. There's another metric that should be there that shows you which components have been rendered and how often. So how many times have you gone to the counter page? How many times have you gone to the welcome page? So maybe one of the updates for Aspire, I may have missed a line of code for that metric, but in the docs, it shows you exactly how you can add it in manually versus relying on Aspire to do that. So somewhere I may have missed something. Cool. So that's persisting state. Now we can go and control how those circuits are closed or opened in, unfortunately, JavaScript. But yeah, so the circuit stores details about the circuit in client-side browser storage and evicts the circuit. So that answers part of your question and frees the server resources. Okay, so in our app, which is here, it's held on the server side, I think, right? So that's no client side, and it just rehydrates it on the client side, and then must push it back to the server. Yeah, the server should know it again so that it can update it again. There might be some cheats, yeah. There could be. Maybe we should go and look up, GitHub issues about this already. I'm sure someone would have raised that. Okay, so the next thing I was going to show you, so I've added a little bit of JavaScript here that we can tap into the Blazor runtime and say and detect when our app's visibility has changed. So it's gone hidden, it's gone behind into the background, or you've tabbed away from it. So now it's going to be hidden. And then we can actually go and say, pause the circuit. If I take these out, then those circuits I showed you previously, they're going to stay open. Right? So when I create a new tab, it's not relinquishing that circuit, it stays there. I've got 50 tabs open, I've got 50 circuits, and that's going to tax the server a bit as well. So it's in your best interest. If your app doesn't require to always have an active circuit, pause it, free up some resources, and when the app becomes visible again, you can resume that circuit. Now, just for demo purposes, I put a timeout in 3 seconds to show you that it's in a disconnected state, and then it'll resume. Okay, so you can use that Blazor. There's a few other methods in here that you can play with. IntelliSense is not great for some reason in this, but yeah, this is where you have to rely on the docs to see what's available. But there are a few other methods you can use. And there we go. So that's handy to have. You can just make a little bit more efficient Blazor apps using that. Then, in the docs, the method names were actually a little bit different. I think it just had like a pause and resume name in the docs, but on the .NET Conf announcement videos, they actually used the right code. So the docs were a little bit out of sync, but hopefully in a day or two they'll sort that out. Yeah. Yeah. I'll get to my app Razor file and show you something else shortly. But you can add it straight in there as well. So here's the code for pausing and resuming your circuits. Just a couple of method calls there. Then, what I want to show you is on the next slide. So you can actually go and customize or replace that Reconnect modal. So a little pop-up window that said, please reconnect. That used to be sort of built in and hidden away, hard to override it. But now it's out there and open for you to change. So you can actually go, they've shipped the code or that component and all of its code for you that you can go and modify yourself. So restyle it so it fits your app. So sometimes you style up your app real nicely, it'll disconnect, but it looks like it's some template from a totally different app. It looks a bit rubbish, but now you can make it look nice and consistent. The observability and diagnostics, so there's a whole bunch of stuff that are in the metrics, metrics that are being published from the Blazor server app. If you want to do it for Blazor WebAssembly, it's a little bit more involved, some extra code you have to write to get it straight out of the browser. But if you use your dev tools, you can go and collect CPU samples and garbage collection dumps and all those other metrics, but you then also have to run it through some tools to open it directly in Visual Studio. I've never really needed to do that personally. Blazor served me well, so I've never really had any real performance issues. But if you really need to get down and dirty, you can look at the .NET GC dump convert tool to take, when you call collect GC dump, it'll download a file, the .NET trace file, and then you convert that into a GC dump file and open it directly in Visual Studio. You can see all the memory maps and things over there to dig into it. Then, I don't have a running demo for this just yet, but so you can use the web application factory and go and override it. So then for test purposes, then you can add in all the services that you need, so either mock services or real ones, however you want to do your testing, integration testing. And then you use that web application factory in a playwright test. So you can new that up, And instead of previously having to spin up just a HTTP client and hit your back end, now you can just run Kestrel in a test and start the server and do your playwright testing code and do your assertions, and great, so you can spin up and tear down the whole app in one test if you want to do that. Obviously, better practices where you can reuse it all and so forth, but beautiful small example. Anyone using Playwright at all for testing? Yeah, one, maybe two. Much nicer than a lot of the other tools out there. It's just in C#.NET, so you'll be right at home writing end-to-end tests. I'm missing a slide. I wanted to show you the one thing is the fingerprinting and compression in the application. So let's say this circuit JavaScript file. If I was to load that in, scrolling a bit fast. So in my app.razor, just load in a normal JavaScript file. Standard practice, no problem. But that, if I get a new version for that, and it's cached on the CDN, there's nothing that easily goes to invalidate that cache. So, excuse me, you'd have to get my control keys the right way around. You'd have to then manually try some fingerprinting, but now we just sort of say anything that's loaded out of as an asset, Blazor or .NET and Blazor will automatically fingerprint that for us. So I'm just going to stop that and start that again. So all the assemblies, NuGets and things that you bring to your Blazor application goes through the fingerprinting now. It's out of the box. But as long as you go and use that loaded as an asset rather than like a direct reference, it'll work. So if I just click open that up, open DevTools. Let's see, can we make this slide bigger? Yep. And let's go here, disable cache, and let's just blow everything away real quick. All right. So now you'll see here, Bootstrap. Oh. Can you see it there? It's got like a little fingerprint, a random string there. Here's our circuit.js. It's got a random string there, and everything's sort of compressed. Can't really see the true size just yet. I tried to figure that out yesterday, but 531 bytes, and then the overall runtime, you'd have to go and add them up because there's, hey, come on, it's not showing me everything right now. Right, so disable cache, reload everything. Sorry, I'm thinking about Blazor WASM. Loads a whole bunch more stuff in the background. You can do the fingerprinting in Blazor WebAssembly as well, which I'll quickly show you. But I haven't got that one running out of Aspire. I'll just quickly run that one by itself. So we'll be able to see there. The only difference is, if you look at, not AppRazor. Let me not confuse it. I want to go here. There's this little notation that you have to use. So hash, open square brackets, dot, fingerprint, blah, blah, dot .ces. So for any resources you want to load and fingerprint, you have to use that little convention there. So even the WebAssembly the framework itself is fingerprinted. So any changes to anything, you publish that and you put it on your CDN, it'll bust the cache, and dramas are gone. So let's see if we load that into the browser. I'll open that up here. Network, and let's just zoom that in as well. That's not what I wanted to do. Come on, network. So you'll see even all the assemblies from Blazor and .NET. Can't show all of it there. They all have their own fingerprints. So anything that gets changed or that needs to be recached, they then have that fingerprinting to bust it out. Very, very nice and simple. There's quite a sort of a low bit of pain, but I'm sure the syntax could have been maybe a little bit nicer, but can't complain about that one. All right, other features that's coming, if you were on a page and you clicked on the the nav bar inside or another link to go to itself. It would normally scroll back to the top, which is super annoying. They're just keeping that position now. I don't know what they did, but it works. Yeah, so you can disable navigation exceptions whilst navigating during static rendering. I don't know. I haven't done this yet, so it must be useful for someone. But if that's for you, great. And again, they've improved the JavaScript interop. Yeah, again, it's not much JavaScript that I've done in Blazor. I know people do. You want to bring in a JavaScript package, you can wire it into, or like an NPM package, you can wire it into your Blazor app, or write your own JavaScript just to get down low into the browser if it's not supported in C#. I don't really get worried about that too much. Most of the tools and the components, the libraries out there are quite mature. If they need to do the JavaScript interop, they'll do it on your behalf, so we don't have to worry about it. Then, in summary, so we can just write more secure apps with Blazor, much easier than before. We can go and be a bit more economical and relinquish the resources that we don't need to use anymore. Great to persist our state, so we eliminate that old sort of re-render flash that used to happen. I think, Lachlan, you're very well aware of that problem. And then more metrics, so we can just inspect our app, see what's happening. It's quite useful to debug and make sure you're shipping quality products. And Blazor 10 is just more awesomer than it ever was before. So with that, thank you very much, and may all your Blazor circuits connect successfully. So that's